Fresh sea air filled her lungs as she stood in front of her new home. After 20 years of saving and dreaming, she finally had it. A 3-story waterfront house painted white, with large windows that sparkled in the afternoon sun. The moving truck pulled away, leaking boxes scattered across the lawn. Her neighbors peeked from behind curtains as she explored her backyard. The grass was thick and green, and palm trees swayed gently in the ocean breeze. But the real treasure was just steps away, a private marina where dozens of boats bobbed in crystal blue water. "Morning," called out the woman from next door, waving a steaming coffee mug. "I'm your new neighbor, Linda. Welcome to Sea Breeze Estates." She smiled and waved back. Linda seemed friendly, not like the stuffy people she'd worried about in such an upscale neighborhood. Within minutes, Linda was showing her around, pointing out important spots. "That's the community clubhouse. Tuesday is bingo night. Friday is potluck dinner. And here's the marina," Linda explained, walking along the wooden dock. "Every waterfront home gets access. It's what makes this place special." The marina was breathtaking. Sailboats lined one side, motor yachts on the other. Everything was neat and organized. Even the fish cleaning station sparkled. "You have a boat?" Linda asked, noticing her admiring gaze. "Not yet," she replied, already planning in her mind. "But I'd always wanted a fishing boat." Over the next 2 weeks, she unpacked boxes and met more neighbors. The HOA president, Mr. Douglas, stopped by with welcome gifts, cookies, and a thick packet of community rules. "Just standard stuff," he said with a smile. "Pool hours, parking guidelines, that sort of thing. We like keeping everything nice around here." She flipped through the pages. Most rules seemed reasonable. No loud music after 9, keep yards maintained, register visitors. Nothing too strict. 3 months later, she found her dream boat. A beautiful 35-foot fishing vessel with 2 outboard motors and a spacious cabin. She named it the Wanderer and spent weekends fixing it up, painting the hull a cheerful blue. Neighbors often stopped to chat while she worked. Even grumpy old Mr. Peterson from across the street brought her lemonade. The marina became her happy place, where the only sounds were seagulls and gentle waves. On weekends, she took friends fishing. They caught red snapper and occasionally spotted dolphins racing alongside. Other boat owners would wave and shout tips about the best fishing spots. Everything was perfect. She had her dream house, friendly neighbors, and a boat that brought her joy. The HOA seemed quiet, almost invisible. Monthly meetings were brief, focusing on simple things like landscaping budgets and holiday decorations. She thought she'd finally found paradise, the kind of place where people looked out for each other, where rules existed to make life better, not harder. Every morning, she'd wake to the sound of waves and feel grateful for taking this chance. Little did she know, storm clouds were gathering on the horizon. Changes were coming to Sea Breeze Estates that would turn her paradise into a battlefield. 6 months after moving in, her peaceful mornings shattered. The doorbell rang at 7 a.m. sharp. She opened the door to find Mr. Douglas standing with 2 other board members, clipboards in hand. "Good morning," Douglas said, though his voice sounded anything but good. "We're conducting boat inspections today. New policy." New policy. She clutched her bathrobe tighter. What new policy? Douglas pulled out his clipboard. "All boats must meet aesthetic guidelines. We're measuring lengths and checking paint conditions." Her stomach dropped. She watched them march down to the marina, measuring boats with long tape measures and taking photos. When they reached the Wanderer, Douglas's face hardened. "Your boat exceeds our length limit by 6 inches, he announced later, standing in her driveway. 6 inches, she repeated, disbelief creeping into her voice. "How is that even noticeable?" "Rules are rules," he said, sliding a formal warning letter across her porch table. "You have 30 days to remove it or face daily fines." The letter felt heavy in her hands. $100 per day after the grace period. She did the math quickly. $3,000 monthly just for her boat. "But I've owned this boat for months." When was this policy voted on? Douglas shifted uncomfortably. The board made an executive decision, under our power to maintain community standards. Linda knocked on her door that evening, anger written across her face. Did you hear about this nonsense? Linda asked. They're targeting 7 boats, including yours and Mr. Peterson's sailboat. That night, she searched through her HOA documents. The covenant mentioned boat regulations, but nothing about specific length limits. She called an emergency meeting to appeal the decision. 27 homeowners packed into the clubhouse. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. She stood at the front, prepared with photos and measurements. My boat is 35 feet, 6 inches. The new limit is 35 feet exactly. This 6-inch difference is arbitrary and unfair. Plus, this policy wasn't properly voted on. Douglas interrupted. The board has authority under Section 12, subsection C. She'd memorized that section, which requires 3 days' notice and a majority board vote. You gave us none. Murmurs spread through the room. Other affected boat owners nodded in agreement. Furthermore, she continued, grandfather clauses typically protect existing property. My boat was here before this policy existed. The board members whispered among themselves. Douglas stood again, his face red. Your appeal is denied. The policy stands. Fines begin in 30 days. The room erupted. Neighbors shouted over each other. Some defended the policy, saying boats were getting too big. Others called it a power grab. She left the meeting shaking with frustration. Outside, Mr. Peterson approached her. I won't let them bully us, he said quietly. I have something to tell you about the Marina. Something they don't want us to know. His mysterious words echoed in her mind as she walked home. What did he mean? Was there more to this fight than just boat lengths? That night, she couldn't sleep. The thought of losing her boat kept her awake. She'd worked too hard, saved too long, to let a power-hungry HOA president take away her freedom. Tomorrow, she decided, she'd fight back harder. The next morning, she sat at her kitchen table with coffee and a pile of documents. Mr. Peterson had left a folder on her porch with a note. Check the original property deed. She'd spent half the night reading through legal papers that made her head spin. Her phone rang. The attorney she'd called yesterday was finally returning her call. Can you help me fight an HOA? She asked immediately. Absolutely, the lawyer replied. But first, let me come look at your documents. Something about this situation feels unusual. 3 hours later, the attorney sat across from her, reading glasses perched on her nose. She'd been flipping through papers for nearly an hour when she suddenly stopped. This is fascinating, she said, tapping a specific page. Do you know what this means? Not really, she admitted. Legal stuff confuses me. The Marina, the actual property where boats dock, was sold by the developer to 2 homeowners, you and Mr. Peterson. Her heart skipped. What? Look here, the attorney pointed to a line in tiny print. The developer kept it as private property for tax reasons, then transferred ownership to just 2 lots. Yours and Mr. Peterson's. The HOA only has an easement for access. So, I own the Marina. Half of it, yes, and they can't fine you for property you own. That weekend, she gathered with 3 other affected boat owners in Linda's living room. Everyone was stressed about the approaching deadline. I tried reasoning with Douglas again, said the man with the sailboat. He threatened to revoke our clubhouse privileges if we don't comply. And get this, Linda added. He's making the maintenance company charge extra fees for marina upkeep. Says it's our responsibility since we have boats. The attorney had given her specific advice about requesting records. Monday morning, she marched to the HOA office with a formal letter. I'm requesting all financial records related to marina maintenance for the past 5 years, she told the office manager. You need board approval for that, the manager replied nervously. Actually, under state law, I don't. I have 15 days to review them. The manager's face paled. Let me call Mr. Douglas. While waiting, she studied the office walls covered with photos of Seabreeze estates through the years. In older pictures, the marina looked different, smaller with fewer amenities. Someone had invested heavily in upgrades. Douglas stormed in 40 minutes later. "You can't just demand records," he snapped. "I can, and I am," she replied calmly. "Unless you're hiding something." His eye twitched. "Fine, but you'll find everything in order." 3 days later, she sat in the office reviewing thick binders. The numbers didn't add up. The HOA collected monthly fees for marina maintenance, but paid nothing to actual owners. She photographed every suspicious page with her phone. By Wednesday, tension gripped the community. Some neighbors avoided eye contact. Others whispered support when Douglas wasn't around. The deadline loomed like a dark cloud. That evening, she received another letter. 21 days remaining. The countdown felt suffocating. "We can't let him win," she told Mr. Peterson over coffee. They'd discovered an unusual bond, both fighting for their boats, both discovering they owned something valuable. "I've been thinking," Mr. Peterson said slowly. "If we own the marina, we make the rules, right?" His question sparked something dangerous in her mind. Maybe it was time to stop playing defense. With 14 days remaining, she filed a formal complaint against the HOA. The courthouse was intimidating, but she prepared every detail. Her attorney helped her request a temporary injunction to stop the fines while the dispute was resolved. "This might take months," the attorney warned. "HOAs can be stubborn." 2 days later, Douglas called an emergency board meeting. He didn't invite her, but Linda snuck a recording device inside. She listened to the recording that night, anger rising with each word. Douglas called her a troublemaker and ungrateful for our community standards. He bragged about having lawyers on retainer and vowed to bankrupt her with legal fees if necessary. The next morning brought good news. The judge granted her temporary injunction. No fines could be collected while the dispute continued. But the victory felt hollow when she found a nasty note stuffed in her mailbox. "Move before we make you." Linda found similar threats. Someone had even started a petition to ban oversized boats. The community was splitting into camps. On Sunday, she met Mr. Peterson at the marina. They sat on his deck, watching boats sway gently. "I called the county records office," she said. "Our property deed is crystal clear. We can legally control access to the marina. But if we block access, we become the bad guys." Mr. Peterson worried. "Not if we do it right," she said, unfolding her carefully drawn plan. "We charge fair access fees directly to boat owners. The HOA has been collecting hundreds monthly but paying us nothing." They consulted property lawyers who specialized in waterfront issues. The experts confirmed their rights and suggested a strategic approach. First, send official notice to all homeowners. Explain the situation clearly. Give them options for continued access. She spent 3 days crafting the letter. It explained the ownership situation, the illegal fees, and proposed reasonable access rates. Anyone could use the marina for $50 monthly, paid directly to the property owners. "This covers actual maintenance costs," she wrote, "unlike the HOA's excessive charges." The letter landed in every mailbox on Wednesday morning. Her phone began ringing immediately. "Are you serious?" one neighbor asked. 20 boats in our community rely on that marina." "Yes, I'm serious. The HOA has been stealing from us for years." Douglas called an emergency meeting that evening. 47 homeowners packed the clubhouse, emotions running high. "This is extortion," Douglas shouted. "You can't hold the marina hostage." She stood up, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm not holding anything hostage. I'm protecting property that belongs to Mr. Peterson and me." "You're splitting our community." "No," she replied. "The HOA split it when you tried to force me out with unfair rules." The meeting dissolved into chaos. Neighbors argued loudly. Some demanded the HOA pay marina owners for years of free access. Others called for negotiations. Later that night, she received her first direct threat. A text from an unknown number. "Keep this up, and you'll regret it." Fear crept into her stomach, but determination pushed it down. She'd come too far to back down now. Her lawyer filed additional paperwork requesting all HOA financial records. They had evidence of misappropriated funds and wanted to see how deep the corruption ran. With 7 days until the original deadline, the battle lines were drawn. The community braced for whatever came next. The fence company arrived on Monday morning. She'd spent the weekend measuring the Marina's perimeter and choosing a design that would provide maximum security without looking aggressive. The 8-foot privacy fence would be painted white to match the neighborhood aesthetic. "Are you sure about this?" the contractor asked, looking at the detailed measurements. "Absolutely," she replied, signing the contract. "Can you install automatic security gates too?" By Tuesday afternoon, workers were digging post holes. Neighbors gathered to watch, some with support, others with obvious disapproval. The sound of drills echoed across the waterfront. Mr. Peterson joined her on Wednesday, bringing coffee and his own contractor estimates. "I got 3 quotes for the security system," he said. "Key card entry will cost about $6,000, but split between us, it's manageable." They spent the day planning the gate placement. Only 3 access points would exist, each controlled by electronic cards. Current boat owners could apply for cards after paying the monthly access fee. "We should start a waiting list," she suggested. "If the HOA doesn't cooperate, other homeowners might sell their boats." Douglas appeared on Thursday morning with a legal team. They stood at the edge of the construction zone, taking photos and shouting threats. "This is illegal construction," one lawyer claimed. "You're violating community covenants." She'd prepared for this confrontation. Actually, according to County Code Section 43, property owners can fence private land. "Here's my permit." The county building department had approved everything after confirming the property lines. The HOA's lawyers left empty-handed, promising to file complaints. By Friday, the fence skeleton was rising. White posts stretched around the marina, creating a protective barrier. Boat owners grew increasingly anxious. Some approached her privately with questions about the new access system. "Will my boat be safe?" asked the elderly woman with the small pontoon boat. "Safer than ever," she assured her. "We're installing security cameras and proper lighting. Your $50 monthly fee includes these improvements." The weekend brought unexpected support. Linda organized a group of neighbors to help install locks and test the gates. Even some without boats volunteered, having grown tired of the HOA's control. "I've lived here 15 years, said the man who helped configure the security cameras. "Never seen someone stand up to them like this." Monday morning, official notices went out to all waterfront property owners. Each received a key card application and payment information. "Action required. Marina access change," the letter stated clearly. "Private property owners now control marina access. Submit payment and application by next Friday to maintain boat privileges." She set up a simple office in her garage. Application forms stacked neatly on a table. Linda volunteered to help process paperwork. The trickle of applications started immediately. 7 boat owners paid on Monday alone. By Wednesday, 13 had submitted payments, choosing to work with the new system rather than fight it. Douglas tried a new tactic. He held meetings at his house, trying to convince reluctant homeowners to join a lawsuit against her. "We need to present a united front," she overheard him saying. "If enough of us refuse to pay, she'll give up." But his plan was backfiring. With each passing day, more homeowners recognized the HOA's long-standing abuse of power. The financial records she'd uncovered showed thousands in unnecessary fees. By Thursday evening, the fence was 90% complete. Security cameras monitored every angle. Motion-activated lights illuminated the docks. The transformation was remarkable. Friday morning brought the final piece, a sign near the main gate, "Private Marina. Access by permission only." She stood with Mr. Peterson. admiring their work. In the background, frustrated boat owners who hadn't applied for access argued with the gate. "Ready for whatever comes next?" Mr. Peterson asked. "Absolutely," she replied, watching the sunset paint their fence golden. Retro yes. Friday deadline arrived like a thunderstorm. By 8 a.m., the marina transformed into chaos. 17 homeowners who hadn't applied for access stood outside the new gates, demanding entry to their boats. "You can't keep us out," shouted the man with the expensive yacht. His face turned red as he yanked on the locked gate. She watched from her porch, sipping coffee calmly. Mr. Peterson joined her, equally relaxed. "They chose not to apply," she said quietly. "We gave plenty of notice." The trapped boat owners called Douglas immediately. He arrived in his golf cart, looking disheveled for the first time since she'd known him. "This is outrageous," Douglas screamed at the security camera. "I demand you open these gates." "Submit your application and payment," she replied through the intercom. "Same rules as everyone else." By noon, the scene escalated. 2 homeowners called their own lawyers. The police arrived after receiving conflicting reports about property rights. "The deed clearly shows ownership," she explained to the officer, presenting her documentation. "We have legal permits for everything." The police confirmed her rights but asked for patience. "Emotions are high. Maybe consider a grace period." She glanced at the 17 desperate boat owners. Some had weekend fishing trips planned. Others needed boats for their businesses. "1-week grace period," she announced. "Apply by next Friday without payment delay penalties." Relief washed over several faces. 3 homeowners immediately asked for applications. That afternoon, Douglas held another emergency meeting. The community room overflowed with angry voices. "She's holding us hostage," Douglas claimed, though his earlier bravado had faded. Linda stood up, recordings in hand. "Actually, let's hear what you said about our neighbor privately." She played Douglas's recording. "Bankrupt her with legal fees if necessary." Gasps filled the room. Several board members looked uncomfortable. "And here's the financial proof," she added, displaying enlarged copies. The HOA collected over $40,000 annually for marina maintenance, but paid the owners nothing. The room divided clearly now. 23 households supported the new system. Douglas's support crumbled to just 14 diehard followers. By Sunday, applications poured in. Even Douglas's friends began submitting paperwork secretly. Marina access meant more than loyalty to a failing leader. The fencing contractor returned Monday to add the final touches: decorative caps and improved lighting. The result looked professional, not vengeful. Wednesday brought interesting mail: a formal letter from the HOA's insurance company. They refused to cover any lawsuits related to marina access, citing the property ownership evidence. "We're done covering their mistakes," the letter concluded. Thursday afternoon, something shifted. 5 board members resigned publicly, citing Douglas's mismanagement. "We had no idea about the property ownership issue," one explained. "Douglas kept that information from us." Douglas's empire crumbled visibly. His aggressive stance lost power as even his strongest supporters questioned him. Friday morning, 7 more applications arrived with payments. 24 out of 27 boat owners had now applied. The holdouts were Douglas and 2 neighbors still fighting purely out of stubbornness. She arranged for professional signage. Proper rules displayed clearly at each gate. No anger, no revenge, just simple information about access procedures. Standing at her window that evening, she watched the sunset paint the marina golden. Boats rocked gently in their slips. Some owners maintained their vessels peacefully, accepting the new reality. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned. Douglas's control was slipping away, one reasonable neighbor at a time. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for the first time, she felt confident about winning this battle properly, through facts, patience, and the law. Monday morning brought surprising news. Douglas called an emergency board meeting, but this time he sent her a formal invitation. The note was handwritten, not printed like his usual correspondence. She arrived at the clubhouse to find a changed atmosphere. The remaining board members sat quietly, avoiding Douglas's eyes. 23 homeowners filled the room, many of them boat owners who'd already paid their access fees. "Let's begin," Douglas said, his voice much softer than before. "I believe we need to discuss the Marina situation." She sat in the back row, prepared for another battle. But Douglas surprised everyone. After reviewing the property records, he began, clearing his throat. "It appears there were some misunderstandings about Marina ownership." Someone snorted. The room stayed tense. "The board proposes to officially recognize the property rights of the two Marina owners and establish a permanent agreement for community access." Her heart started racing. Was this really happening? Douglas pulled out a prepared document. "We propose the HOA will formally apologize for any confusion and acknowledge the Marina ownership. In exchange, we ask for reasonable access terms for all waterfront homeowners." The room buzzed with whispers. This was Douglas admitting defeat, though he'd never say those words. She stood up carefully. "What specific terms are you proposing?" Douglas read from his notes. First, a formal apology letter to affected homeowners. Second, full reimbursement of all legal fees incurred. Third, waiver of any fines or penalties against boats currently exceeding the previous length guidelines. And the fourth term, she prompted, knowing there had to be more. A 4-year moratorium on any new marina regulations. The board commits to working with marina owners before implementing future policies. The room fell silent. This was more than she'd expected. Douglas was basically surrendering all his power over boat issues. "I need time to review this with the other marina owner and our attorney," she replied professionally. That evening, she and Mr. Peterson sat with their lawyer, reviewing the proposal. "It's quite generous," the attorney admitted. "They're clearly worried about what else might come to light about their financial practices." They spent 3 days negotiating minor details. The final agreement included everything Douglas proposed, plus a guarantee that boat owners could keep their current vessels regardless of length. Saturday brought the official signing ceremony. Douglas looked noticeably older as he signed document after document. The formal apology referenced administrative errors and communication failures rather than admitting wrongdoing outright. But she didn't care about face-saving anymore. She had won what mattered. The following week, checks arrived for legal fees. The marina gates remained but became symbols of proper ownership rather than division. Every homeowner received updated HOA guidelines that clearly explained property boundaries and access rights. 3 months later, something unexpected happened. The community newsletter announced Marina Appreciation Day. 25 homeowners celebrated with a potluck by the waterfront. Even former opponents joined, grateful for the peaceful resolution. Douglas attended briefly, offering quiet apologies to several neighbors before leaving early. The community had moved past the conflict, though the lesson remained. 1 year later, when putting her house on the market, the real estate agent suggested highlighting the protected marina access with ownership rights. The property sold in 3 days, for 45% above asking price. Multiple buyers competed for the rare combination of waterfront living and actual marina property ownership. Standing on her porch on moving day, she watched boats arrive and depart. The simple access system worked perfectly. No more power games, just reasonable rules made by actual owners. Her new neighbors thanked her for the improvements. The security cameras and proper lighting had made their boats safer. The monthly fee system seemed fair compared to the HOA's previous hidden charges. As the moving truck pulled away, she smiled. Sometimes fighting back wasn't about winning. It was about doing what's right and letting the truth speak for itself. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. 3.7 Sonnet.